Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We will start the webinar very shortly. We'll just give it another few seconds for people to join, and then we'll kick off. Okay, so I think we'll make a start now. Hello and welcome to the Hackett and Reuters webinar this afternoon. We will be talking about leveraging AI for operational excellence and strategic cost management. And the context for this is that there's significant challenges around the world, full stop at the moment. But there are additional specific challenges in the pharmaceutical industry, which are very interesting. And we have a fantastic panel that will be able to guide us through some of the issues and the opportunities this afternoon. And one of the guiding hypotheses and observations that we have that we'll be exploring is that the maximum value, the maximum benefit is derived when AI solutions are deployed in concert with operating model changes. So it's not just about banging in technology. This is about using technology smartly in an integrated way with the rest of the business. My name's David Ketchin. I'm lead the Hackett Group business across Europe. My background is finance, information management, and for the last 25, 30 years now in business transformation more broadly. And I'm really interested in every wave of technology that comes along. It's a key enabler of how we drive performance in organizations and has been for many years now. And of course, AI being one of the latest waves of opportunity for organizations. So very interested to go through this afternoon. I'll now allow the panel to introduce themselves, and perhaps you'd like to give a little bit about your background, your role in your company, and your current involvement in technology and AI. So I guess maybe going from left to right, Jeremy, would you like to go first?
Thank you, David. So I'm Jeremy Gonladel. I'm working for Sanofi. As you can hear from my accent, I'm French. I'm pharmacist and engineer by education, and I spent 23 years of my life in the industry, pharma industry only. I spent 19 years in Sanofi, 18 years in manufacturing and supply operation, doing a little bit about everything in manufacturing, supply, quality, production, a lot of supply chain. And very recently, 1 year and a half ago, I moved to an organization called Business Operation, which is probably what you know outside as a global business services, because we are going to a big transformation, as you said, changing the operating model. And my job is to build this organization for all the manufacturing and supply processes. And as you can imagine, and we will discuss later on, a lot of AI, innovation, digital inside. And on top of that, for some of you that can follow me, we are having a very strange or disruptive partnership with McLaren Formula One team. And I'm also the sponsor of this for all Sanofi. And I'm sure it's going to come back in our discussion. Very excited to be with all of you today.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeremy. And as you can see, a very broad background there. And certainly the global business services side of things will be very interesting for us as well. Gorinda, would you like to go next?
Definitely. My name is Gorinda Kaur. I'm with AstraZeneca. Now, my background is very interesting. So I'm now with a group of life science professionals, but I've only had 5 years in life science since 2022. So my background is 30 years in the industry, did nearly about 15 to 16 years in FMCG across 3 different companies, Diageo, Coca-Cola, and Kellogg's, and really did a spectrum of everything, right from R&D to commercial, to supply chain and manufacturing, obviously from the technology background. And then I basically have about 8 years in automotive with Ford Motor Company. And I've been blessed to be able to have worked in all 4 corners of the world, right from Asia Pacific to Europe, and then now in North America. So my role currently in AstraZeneca since 2022 is to lead the technology strategy, execution, and support services for what we call our operations function, and also our enabling units function. On operations, we are talking about everything from developing, planning, manufacturing, and distributing our medicines to patients, and then enabling unit, anything from finance, HR, global business services, and so on, looking at the technology and how we actually can power value, including, of course, our latest powerful capability around AI.
Great. Thank you very much, Gurinder. Again, very interesting background. And it might be that we can contrast some of the things that you've learned in pharmaceutical with some of your FMCG and other experiences as well. The cross-industry comparison is sometimes very interesting. And Angelica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone, and to the attendance. I have to make a comment because maybe there are participants from the US. This is Merck KGA, Darmstadt, Germany. I am based in Germany. Like full disclaimer, no confusion with the American Merck, right? But besides that, I'm 15 years in technology. I've also started in fast-moving consumer goods. Then I did some consulting, and in the last 12 years, I am with Merck, moving a bit around, but always in IT business facing. I've covered supply chain topics in the past, and in the last 2 years, I'm covering commercial for our healthcare business in Merck, right? Because we have three different business sectors. And my connection with AI, I mean, together with the team, we live it every day. We have a strong team of data and AI, and we are surfing the wave, but I think as we will discuss today, is not so smooth. And I think there is a lot of learnings we are gaining on the go, and we are pivoting and adapting. But it's not just as an IT team. I think it's also how business absorbs this and what is the right pace for change. Knowing that pharma in general, I think we are a bit the laggards when it comes to new technologies. I think there are other industries, maybe they are today a bit more advanced than we are in pharma. So
great. So again, thank you very much, Angelica. I know it's going to be a great conversation. I think particularly your business partnering experience between IT and the other functions is going to be really valuable to add to the perspective. I'm now just going to spend a few minutes to quickly go through, why would Hackett be facilitating this particular conversation and part of our perspectives around this. We have worked with all the major biopharma companies globally and most of the medtech companies as well. And we've benchmarked nearly all of the Dow Jones Industrials and Titans, more than half of the FTSE 100 and many other organizations across the world and across Europe. And what this means is that we're able to provide insights on the levels of performance attained by organizations, but also we measure and assess how they achieve those levels of performance. So we're looking at the practices that have been adopted. And what that means is that we can identify the opportunity, we can pinpoint the opportunity for improvement in organizations, and we work with companies to architect and implement those solutions to drive better performance. One point of definition, we often in Hackett talk about digital world class. With other organizations, other consulting organizations, some of the ones that I worked with in the past many years ago as well, digital world class would mean really good. In Hackett, it means really good as empirically defined in a measured way. And what we're talking about is that digital world class are those organizations that have attained top quartile performance for business value, which means the effectiveness of that function in supporting the rest of the company in driving better results and fulfilling their role in the organization. But it's that top quartile at the same time as being top quartile for operational excellence or efficiency. So we're not interested in functions being cheap. We want them to be really good value for money and having a massive proactive impact on the rest of the organization. And just as a point of mathematics, some of you probably know this anyway, but if you're top quartile against two axes at the same time, it means that in the total population, you're probably top decile. It's about between 6 and 10% of the population would be top quartile for both. So the digital world class really is the best of the best. Then in terms of the industry trends that we're talking about, the background for this conversation, there's a lot of competition from generics and biosimilars that are coming in. The complexity of the methods of research and development and the higher skilled labor costs, regulatory changes are all driving up R&D costs. There's an increasing drive and continued drive for patient safety and controls over pricing. Pricing pressures also come through scrutiny on pricing per se, but also about access for patients. And then the geopolitical problems around the world, which are absolutely tragic at the individual level and the national level, but also have a business impact as well, causing great disruption to supply chains, causing logistics issues, and reducing the availability of raw materials. So lots and lots of changes here, meaning that companies need to be able to innovate more rapidly, improve R&D productivity, adapt cost effectively to the regulations, optimize pricing while still maintaining compliance, and building resilient and adaptable supply chains. So some massive challenges out there. But how do organizations deal with those challenges? How do they fund the projects to deliver against those problems? Well, one way is to make sure that you do have a top performing set of enabling functions across SG&A. And here you see that the top decile performers have run at around about 15 to 18% as a percentage of revenue for their cost base in that area. The average performers, on the other hand, are about 23 to 26%. So that is a really big gap and a really big funding opportunity if you can release those costs. It's not just about costs, as I said, but there is that opportunity to free up that funding. And just to quantify that, if we take our total database and look at the cost of G&A in dollar terms, if you move from average performance to digital world-class performance, it would release $110 million per annum in an average $10 billion company. $110 million. So really, really significant. And that's just across finance, procurement, HR, IT, those G&A functions. So it's a really important area to think about. We're now going to go into the panel discussion, but just to kick that off, I do want to encourage participation from the audience. Please do put questions in the chat. We'll do our best to address those as we go through the conversation, but if not, we might come back to you at the very end, or we might come back to you after the webinar, but please do put questions in the chat. And Daisy, can you launch the first poll question as well? Because we will ask 3 poll questions as we go through the webinar. This first one is to get a feeling for how much value people on the audience are deriving at the moment. So on average, over the past 12 to 18 months, the value realized from new AI solutions has exceeded expectations. So you're really doing well, it's blowing it out of the water, or met expectations, or not meeting the expectations in some way. So I think we can close the poll there. We've got quite a good response rate already. Thank you for doing that. And I think what you can see is there is a spread across all of the areas. I think the fact that some have exceeded expectations or met expectations, nearly half in fact, demonstrates there is really significant value to access. On the other hand, there's 50% that are not meeting the expectations. So it seems to me that the webinar is well timed, if you like, for us to learn the lessons from the experts that we have. So now I'm going to ask the panel the first question, which was to ask you to share 1 or 2 examples that you have from your own experience of AI solutions that have significantly improved either operational excellence or cost management or both. And I think maybe Gorinda, would you like to go first?
Sure, thanks, David. So first of all, I think I just want to take the examples we have currently in AstraZeneca and really drive that. Now, in what we have learned is leading organizations view costs not just as a financial metric, but as an enabler to reinvest in R&D and innovation. And if you talk to any of our AstraZeneca folks here, you're going to hear the term grow without growing. And the reason I want to really emphasize that before I go into my 1 or 2 examples is we have an ambitious bold ambition in AstraZeneca. By 2030, we are going to introduce 20 new medicines to patients. And from somebody like me who is new, 4 years in, I learned very quickly. It takes 10 to 15 years and about $2.6 billion to introduce 1 approved medicine to patient. And we in 2022 said by 2030, we are going to introduce 20. And we are really embracing AI in a big way to enable that to realize across the value chain, right from drug discovery into manufacturing and supply, and then into commercial. So when I bring that to life from a drug discovery perspective, one or two examples that are really shining through is when you look at how we run experiments. So we have used AI now to really move from many iterations of costly physical experiments to AI predicting molecule behavior, which actually then help us to run our drug discovery process to reduce time and basically cost to design the medicine. So that is one area we are really looking at a lot of value being pulled through. The other is all of us in life science obviously have regulatory submission processes. So we are using AI now to really accelerate regulatory submission processes by some of our documents being co-authored by AI up to 85%. So if you think of all the regulatory processes we run in the company, which is quite burdensome, AI is helping us to speed that up in a big way. So in manufacturing, which is my bread and butter, and it's manufacturing and supply chain, we have been using AI now to reduce lead time by 50% and a development lead time. And that is very, very important if you know how much it costs to develop a medicine and how long it costs to develop a medicine. We are also reducing the use of active pharmaceutical ingredients in our experiments by 75%, which I'm a big person on keeping our planet clean. This is super important for me. Now, to me, when I say value, it crosses also keeping our planet clean. So a sustainability agenda is big here. And then finally, we are basically also optimizing all our production schedules in supply chain to deliver a reduction of up to 75% in planning lead time. So all of you know our little processes. So that is big in terms of we are measuring it. We are showing a control group of when we do it with AI versus when we don't do it with AI. We are showing a 75% pull in terms of a reduction in planning lead time. And then finally, in supply chain, we have boost our output of 55% in some of our manufacturing plants. I don't say all, that's why we look at inconsistency. We can talk about what we can learn later, but some of our key manufacturing site by self-optimizing the flow and right first time manufacturing. So we have seen a lot of value driving through, and we can talk later about what is working and what needs to work better. And the final example I want to share, which more is on the healthcare side, which is not in my area, but AI is playing a big part in that. We basically, from a healthcare perspective, if you look at lung disease and lung cancer, we are using AI-powered X-rays to really predict and from an early stage on a possibility of that diseases in patients in emerging markets. We all know with lung disease or lung cancer, it's actually being detected too late. By having this capability out there, we can actually improve survival rates by 90%. Wow. So that is, again, big from a human and society value. So the only thing I want to leave before I go is all these examples, we need to look at it from an integrated way. It's not just a tech play. Somebody mentioned that before. It's the technology. It's how do we bring our people and really learn how to work differently? How do we look at value end to end, not just in small pilots? And basically, how do we re-engineer and rewire the organization? That was critical for us to glimpse and all the examples that I've just shared shortly. So back to you,
That's
Dave.
great. And that's really interesting to hear the spread of examples that you've got there, and the spread of the examples and a balanced perspective against business outcomes, but also the patient outcomes, which is why we're all here, and also planet. Really interesting to hear that. Jeremy, do you want to share a couple of examples for us as well?
Yeah, I think it's very well aligned. I think our CEO Paul is also passionate by AI. We are investing massively, so maybe we can spend 40 hours giving some examples. But I'm going to focus on a few ones, and good because I'm coming from manufacturing, so I'm going to start by that. We do a lot of effort on manufacturing, not only for performance, but as you say, I think you're in there because everything that matters for us is patients, and I think every hour you can gain is helping you to increase your capacity to be better on supply and to supply more patients on time. So that's what we do. On manufacturing, as I was saying before, we are working with McLaren Formula One team, and we do something that is quite unusual. We combine Formula One technology with AI. Why? Because this guy in Formula One, if you know a little bit Formula One, They are having sensors everywhere. They are having billions of data in forays, and they are running billions of simulation. So they are very good in making simulation, billions of simulation, and then after take decision. So we try to learn from them. I think we have worked a lot on the production line, putting some sensors, high-speed camera, all the things they use, for pit stop, for getting the speed on the car. And then after we connect that with some AI model, again, to improve change over time, to improve the campaign, to be more efficient at the end, and to be better on supply. So that's something I think concrete, working very well, that we try to go now at scale. Another good example, which is a lot about manufacturing and supply, is quality and regulatory.
Yeah.
In pharma industry, we are a lot of submission in quality. I think you have a lot of documentation. One of my worst for me is a product quality review, where for each of your product, once a year, you need to publish a kind of report for authorities. If you look at how it was done before, it was a couple of people spending days or weeks or months just getting some data and printing a report. I think now we have developed a full AI solution that you push a button in 5 minutes. The system is getting everything, putting a report. We had a lot of debate about, is it perfect or not? It's not perfect, but good is enough.
Yeah.
And I think the current assessment is probably 98% okay, which I think is so it's a concrete example of what AI can bring if you use it very well. I think that's maybe 2 examples I want to give to start, let's say.
No, that's great. And certainly that kind of reporting aspect, it takes up such amount of time of really skilled people's time. It can be a really valuable use case. There was another one with another pharma company that I was talking to recently, and they've developed an agent that allows people to ask very simple questions about company policies.
Yeah.
And normally, if you want to buy something or stay compliant with something, you might have to search around your intranet or get something from, even in big organizations, sometimes it's very difficult to find the right thing. But the agent now, you ask the question in normal language, it comes back, it brings you all the policies. It might even give you something else from external advisors as well. And it means you're taking away what is wasted time and giving it back to the skilled individual so they can spend more time on important matters.
And maybe, David, just to build on what you say, I think so.
Yeah.
What we discuss here sometimes can be complex. You have a generative AI, some big project, quite expensive, quite long. We are also doing a lot with at Sanofi on what we call snakeable AI, meaning AI available for anyone. So we have a couple of things. One is a tool called Concierge, which is like a real concierge where you can ask anything you want in Sanofi. He will go find data and help you. So it can be for your personal life. If you want to order flowers for your wife, I think he can do it for you. If you want some help to book your holidays, he can do it for you. But also, if you need some help about, I'm not sure about what is the SOP, I'm not sure about what is the guideline, he can get it for you. Because again, if we don't do that, I think you restrict AI to some expert and some places only, and where we want to make it available for anyone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, really good examples. Angelica, would you like to share a couple of your experiences?
Sure. I mean, needless to say, I think the typical examples in pharma that were mentioned already, of course, we are also working on that. But since I'm now closer to commercial and I left supply chain behind, I would like to focus on that. And what generative AI brings is tremendous potential into helping with our marketing and content and the content supply chain and the speed to market, from a campaign design to how you cascade to the countries. So a lot of our efforts in my area, right, in commercial, we are focusing there. We have, the big pieces of the puzzles there. Some are already live, some will go live later this year. As a next step, what we want to see is really to ensure that along the value chain of the content and how we are running our marketing campaigns, everything falls into place. And the ultimate vision is to run marketing automation. But, there are steps still to be taken to go in this direction. But we have a bold ambition and we have tangible steps along the way. We have good results with what we have live so far, but before doing big transformations, right? Because I think you're also mentioning operational, how do you change your processes? It's not about bringing the tool only to support here and there. You might need some redesign of your overall processes. I think this will come subsequently as the maturity and the confidence that the quality is where we need it to be proves itself.
That's great, thank you. And again, another really good example. We're talking about that point of integration. I think it's time to go on to the next polling question. Daisy, if you could bring it up, please, which is talking about the degree of whether the AI solutions have been implemented with the operating model changes as well. And what we mean by that is when the AI is being designed, it's being considered as to when to bring it into the organization, are we also addressing who does what, where, how they're enabled? So we're looking at process, information governance, placement, is it onshore, offshore, partnerships, is it BPO, is it captive, and the interfaces between internal parties and external parties as well. So what is that interaction, that total operating model? And one thing I might just throw out there was that there was one of the senior professors or research fellows at MIT Sloan a few years ago. He wrote that digital transformation, when it's done well, is like turning into a butterfly. And then when it's done wrong, it's like getting a really fast caterpillar. And this is what we're trying to get at here, is that you can use AI to take away the problems, to increase speed, but have you really properly transformed everything that you would aspire to do? So Daisy, I think we can end the poll there and share the results. So we can see here that it's not something that is being ignored by organizations, which is great. That's showing this a growing maturity. I think the fact that in the first question, which it said there's an inconsistency about meeting expectations or not meeting expectations for half the audience, I think there's a connection there that potentially, if it's only been integrated with the operating model sometimes or rarely, that could be the issue there. So that's something I'd like to explore a bit more with the panel now. So if you're thinking about introductions and changes that you've made, what have been some of the challenges that you've had to face, and then what strategies have you been able to adopt to overcome those challenges? This time maybe we'll go backwards. So maybe Angelica, do you want to keep the microphone?
Yes, actually, I was going to raise my hand, so thank you for calling on me. Definitely. I mean, ideally, and we're doing many different types of transformation, right? And AI shouldn't be different, but I think what was different, maybe it's changing now, but what was different last year, maybe still early in the year, was that confidence that in the end, the solution will give you the accuracy you are expecting. Mm-hmm. So then you do go and change your operating model, right? So I think in early days and even today, we are optimistic and we have good results. But sometimes we're like, oh yeah, the accuracy here could be better. Let's see how we better train the model. Because also the expectations from the business, once that's there, is that it runs almost flawlessly, right? It's not like we want to take the people out of the process. We are still designing to have the person, at the center, but still they say, this should help me. I shouldn't be the one double checking, is it really correct? Most of the times it should be correct, and maybe with a few exceptions, yeah, I can intervene and adjust. So I think this learning curve, and especially the confidence, and also the regulatory aspect with EU AI Act and all, which there was also a lot of uncertainty around it. We said, okay, let's start. Let's see what the technology really do. Let's do a POC, and then we analyze everything, and we scale. Then, of course, with the required transformation.
And how have you found that scaling situation? So scaling can be one of the really big challenges after a POC. Have you been able to succeed with that scaling, or that in itself, has that been a problem?
Yes, with one of the solutions, especially around MLR efficiency of content review, we go very bold, which is also, we are being asked, are you sure you want to be this bold? but already we scaled in parallel to several markets with several TAs, several languages. But now is also the moment where we see if we go big bang, towards end of the year, or we still take it in a stepwise approach to add complexity. Of course, the markets are still, they love it, but they still think, oh, but before I had the freedom to do it like this and like this. And there is variations from market to market at times. And this is where change management also comes in for them to understand that, an algorithm needs a rule and we cannot configure for each and every market whatever local rules were established historically over time. So, but we are getting there.
And Jeremy, do you see that change management challenge in a similar way, or are there other challenges that you faced?
So scale for sure is a problem or a question, because AI is so sexy, so trendy that everyone wants to do it. And so what we try to do is to prioritize. I think we set up a very strong governance. And if you want to do something on AI, you need to come with what is the value that you can create, or what is the impact you create, and we really focus on the big bucket. So that's one of the point. Change management is also a challenge. I think when we started, a lot of people were just afraid about losing their job, plus some other people were thinking, what is coming from AI is not as good as when I was doing it my own. So a lot of change management. I think we always say that a human with AI will be better than human without AI. So a lot of education to do on that. One of the topics I would like to add on what Angelica says is the quality of the data. A lot of people think that you come with your AI agent and it's going to fix everything like that. Unfortunately, if you are not very good in your data management, it can be a chaos. And I think we experimented on a couple of topics. So a lot of work also on getting more control on the master data. The last piece for me is the regulation, because and the environment, because when you use tools like ChatGPT or this kind of stuff, everything go outside, and for sure, as Gurinder was saying before, when you are talking about R&D new product, you cannot go outside. So again, we develop a lot about what we call responsible AI to make sure that people can use AI, but in a safe environment. So that's a little bit the challenge that I would.
Jeremy, just with that data management topic, I've been a consultant for a long time, I'm afraid. But data management and data quality has been on the list of top priorities for 20, 30 years. Do you think that the latent possibilities of AI might be an accelerator for organizations finally getting to grips with the data quality?
This is what we try to do. So I must be honest, we are not there yet, but we started to work on it in a little bit traditional way. And like big company like AstraZeneca, Merck, Sanofi, if you do it in a traditional way, it can take you 7, 8 years, 10 years to fix. And I think we are testing how AI can help you doing everything faster. So yes, it's work in progress for us. It seems to be quite promising and magical.
Yeah, great, thank you.
But again, it's not magical. It's not just you plug and it's going to make it for you. I think still a lot of work, as Angelica was sharing, about processes and all this stuff.
Okay, great, thank you for that. So Gurinder, are you seeing similar challenges? Do you recognize the ones that Angelica and Jeremy have raised? I guess they're going to be yes, but are there any additional points that you would bring in as well?
Yeah, so I think for us, yes, it's exactly what Jeremy and Angelica has said. And I think what we have really pushed in the organization is we really are standing behind the power of AI. When I'm talking from the senior leadership down, we recognize what it could do if we do it right. And what we're trying to do with all our pilots, because you can get into pilots paralysis out there if you're really not careful. Thousands of pilots being run. It's just, what are we doing about it? So we always lead with value. So we look at value, let's say, a business process end to end, look at it holistically, look at it, how AI can really improve not just a slither of it, but the whole end-to-end connectivity. And then work backwards to say, okay, that's what we call think big, start small, and scale fast. I'm sure we have heard that across in the last 5 to 10 years on a number of fronts. So once we really identify the value, then we say, okay, we'll start with a small POC/pilot. But we already know our end game or where we want to go and what the value could look like, what our process changes need to look like. and then what the data challenges we have. Now, the one thing good about AI is data has always been a problem. For those of us in IT, we always say, get our data clean, get our data clean. It's been like 10 years, like 15 years dialogue, correct? But today, because we really value the power of AI, it is now becoming a prime conversation at leadership tables at all business levels. So at least getting the commitment to get our data right is going to be important, because what we understand is when you run the pilots and then you really scale it, the value exponential is 5 to 8x. So you might get a small piece of value in a pilot, but if you manage to really get to the scaling, you are now 5, 8x in terms of transformation. So I think that's the value. So regulatory is the same, data is the same, getting our process simplified is also a discussion point in terms of really capturing that value. But and the technology side, for those of us that are technology, simplifying our technology landscape. In AstraZeneca, I'm sure in Sanofi and Merck, we have every piece of tech out there in our company. So do we want to spend time connecting the technology, or do we want to go towards a platform-based approach where you actually have fewer connected technology backbone with a connected data backbone that is clean? And then, of course, spend all your time on change management and upskilling the organization. So one thing I do want to share with that I'm pretty proud that AstraZeneca is, in 2024, we really did an AI accreditation program to really upskill the entire organization. Since then, we have about 12 to 13,000 people accredited. But what is interesting is when we ask those people that have already started to study about AI, understand how AI can change their job and apply it on day-to-day activities that they do, 90% of those that took the course said it improved and drove productivity in what they managed. And then now 25,000 people in the company is using our AZ Chat GPT, which is our internal AZ Chat GPT, daily. So every month when we poll, 25,000 people. And I believe the reason of that is because we started really teaching and educating the masses right from 2024. So I think that's another one. We need to carry the organization along. It's not just a pockets of few. It needs to be everybody.
It's really interesting listening to all of you speaking, actually, because it seems to me that the executive narrative around AI always started very enthusiastically, and a lot of the pharma chief execs came out with saying, "I'm all in for AI," meaning every single function. And it was quite pleasing for me. I think it might have even been Pascal Soiré, or was one of the other chief execs. He said, "I'm all in," and he said this goes for drug discovery and even to finance. So he was being really clear. It was across all different functions. And it's been interesting to see how the narrative has developed and strengthened as people learn more about it. I just had a kind of sub-question to the last one that I asked about obstacles and strategies to overcome it. Do you see risks attached to AI, whether it's around bias or data privacy? And is this something that's a commentary, a discovery topic in the organization?
I can go first.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously, we are big on innovation. We want technology innovation. We want science innovation in our company. So we don't want to really stop the enthusiasm of everybody learning about AI. But side by side, we are also now educating on, how do we actually run AI responsibly? What are the biasness, the regulation, especially from different countries have different regulations we need to bring in. And also from a cybersecurity, from a cybersecurity perspective, what should we be thinking about AI? So we are really educating the organization internally while trying to balance the enthusiasm on the ground, because we need to be careful that we create an environment that is safe, that people could learn and could explore and could drive value from a business perspective. At the same time, when it starts to scale and we want to go across the organization, we start to put what we call these critical components of making sure it's responsible, right from cybersecurity to privacy, etc., and also the biasness of the models and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's what we are doing in AstraZeneca.
Yeah, very interesting. It's interesting hearing people talk about hallucinations, and we in the old world we used to say it was wrong.
Yes.
I agree. I think just to build on what Gurender just said, I think, yes, this question of data is critical. And that's why we are very, very strong on responsible AI to make sure that we control it. As you say, as we said before, AI will probably do 99% of the job. But for some critical stuff, you still need to have at the end a human checking that what he's proposing is right, especially for some critical stuff. And for me, the last risk, probably, David, is, again, a lot of people think that now I go see someone, I meet a partner, I ask him to develop an agent, and the agent will do everything for me. And people think that because of that, you don't need to work on processes, you don't need to work on operating model. And that's why, to your point at the beginning, we are not managing AI isolatedly. I think we have a big transformation, creating a big GBS organization. This GBS organization is what we call AI embedded from the beginning in the design. So we explain to people that we will try to embed AI from the beginning. If not, no problem, we can do it later. It's not a big deal. But all the work that we will do on the process and the governance will be useful for AI after. So, it's not contradictory. It's both, let's say, that you need to have.
Yeah, and I think, global business services has been a model that's been used for many years now as a way of driving a standardized, coordinated approach to business processes. And I think, that's going to continue, would be my hypothesis, that's a fundamental role for the global business services organization. Angelica, did you have anything to add on risk?
Yes, a short one to add. I will not repeat what was said. And probably you've seen there are different studies now that start emerging. What are the consequences on the brain, on the attention, on the critical thinking of using over relying on certain AI solutions? So I think that the risk and where probably we need to invest more in general, right, in the organization is having experts that can also study organizational behavior and also motivation of people over time. Because in the beginning, you might be happy that some workload, gets off your hands, but it might be that over time the motivation will decrease. You might not think, oh yeah, am I so important anymore? The tool does it all. So this is also something that I see as a risk, more mid-long term, and also more of curiosity, how this will actually be absorbed. I think there was a recent announcement of a pharma company putting together HR and IT, which, in the beginning, I won't name it because I was like, what? Okay. But if you think about it, it might make sense. Yeah. And this is something that it's still early, but something to observe.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to think about how you marry up the shareholder goals with organizational goals and then individuals' motivations and career paths. It's something to really sew together very carefully. So thank you for that. We'll bring the third and final poll question up now, please, Daisy. So this says that, it's asking, over the coming 1 to 2 years, to what extent do you expect investments in AI to go up? And we're interested to have a look at this to see, is this one of those waves of technology that has already matured and it's already at a stable base, or is it something we're expecting to increase significantly? So I think, Daisy, that's great. We've got enough of an answer there. If you can end the poll and share the results. And what you'll see is that all organizations expecting there to be moderate increase to 10 to 30 or even more than 30%. So really significant increase in this particular area. And I think, again, that says that the lessons that have been learned by organizations and the organizations on the panel, but all organizations, it's a really important point in time to take consideration of that, because there is going to be an acceleration, but we have learned lots of lessons from the implementation so far, including the integration of operating model with the AI solution, so integrating it fully. So if I can ask another question of the panel, I'm interested to see how you think AI is likely to evolve, particularly in biopharma, over the next 5 years, say, either considering cost pressures, regulatory pressures, some of the other pressures that we were talking about at the beginning of the webinar. How do you feel that the role of AI might develop from here? Who'd like to go first?
I can start if you want.
Thanks,
So
Jeremy.
I think I should just say cost pressure is there. I think we are under pressure on price. I think it's very difficult. So with this cost pressure, it's going to push us to use more and more AI, because we see that when you have some good cases, it brings significant impact. So because of cost pressure, we will push to have more and more AI, I would just say. For me, what you say also in terms of regulation and geopolitical is very important. Regulation, because everything we do, and I think we heard it from all of us, is about new product and patients, I think. And the challenge is again, it's not the final steps, is really the development and how can you really streamline your process to gain 1 year, 2 years in the process. And this, in pharma, we do a lot, but the next step will be to do with authorities to make sure that they accept to be connected with us. They accept, today you submit and you wait months to get some question, and then after that, maybe in the future you will have AI in the middle, and I think they can approve in a couple of minutes. So this is going to be the next battle that we are working on, a very difficult one for pharma because it's a very regulated. And geopolitical, because we all see what is happening in the world now. I think we are talking about VUCA, Bani, wars, traffic. So I'm sure that AI will play a key role helping us, as Gurinda was saying at the beginning, in terms of supply, to be more agile, to rebalance what we do, and to answer quickly to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, I think. Angelica, how do you see things developing?
I hope that if we look at macro level, and it's not just biopharma but also healthcare in general, we know in the future we won't have enough doctors even to talk to as a pharma company, right? So we might have the best channels and the best content and no one on the other side. So while talking of the stakeholders, in the healthcare industry, I hope there is enough support also for that part, so we can still maintain a relationship, unless it will be reimagined. So I think we can also think of that, right? Instead of doing the omni-channel, multi-channel, and pushing a lot of content, will be AI in the middle and will maybe dictate which is the best drug for the best therapy, and you have it all based on clinical data. I don't know, but I think possibilities will be there, but of course will take quite some time to get there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That speed of response can be so important. The Hackett Group run a Digital Innovation Award program every year when clients and sometimes BPO providers, they send us examples of what they've implemented. We judge them against each other based on measured outcomes and then award the best ones. There was one this year that was about getting through cancer diagnoses so much more quickly than they'd previously been able to do. And it was gone from, I think it was from 3 months down to 3 hours to be able to get the diagnosis. And the sooner you can start the therapeutic pathway, it's much higher chance of survival. So I think that speed of turnaround is going to be can be really dramatic and make a big impact. Gurinda, was there anything that you wanted to share about where you think AI will go?
I'm a bit bullish about AI. I think it's going to do wonderful things for all of us in healthcare. I'm more focused on how do we use AI to get medicines quicker to patient and transform patients' lives, especially for those of us who are actually having life-changing medicines for patients. So that to me, I think is important. Cost pressures out there, geopolitical is out there and this is where I can bring one of my sort of cross industry from FMCG, CPG into life science. I've heard, since I left them, FMCG in 2022, I heard that AI is actually a key bit in FMCG to really draw down costs and really get the cost aspect down. They have no choice, correct? Their margins are very, very slim. So every cent counts. So I'm looking forward to taking that and making sure that we can apply the same within the life sciences. Because remember, our medicines are also very expensive out there. So the more we can bring the cost down, the more the medicines will be available to people around the world, which is where we want to transform patient care. But I wanted to really share, but Gartner and all those folks out there are giving us really, really early indications that AI will surge from 47.1 billion today in 2030, and it's only 5 billion today. So imagine the growth of AI investments that are going to go out there. So that tells me there's going to be a lot of AI solution, AI applications in the enterprise world. And more importantly, it's going to be 33% integrated into enterprise platforms.
Right.
In our day-to-day life, like how we book our travel, how we do all those things, but really making it scale in an enterprise, 33% is a big number by 2028. So I am very bullish that, we will actually draw down how do we use AI to get medicines quicker to patients, how do we bring the cost down, and how do we grow without growing on our top line. So that will be where I would be.
So you're looking for a very exciting period that you're
Oh,
about
yes,
to go through.
I am.
So
Maybe that's the tech in me, the technologist in me.
Yeah,
I am excited.
absolutely. It's
And
about
maybe
embracing.
to build on what Guranda was saying, I think something we said to our team internally is, what is the best use of your time? Is it to do report stuff, or is it to really focus on your strategic priority? And what we want to do is we push to AI everything we can push there, and we can really dedicate it the time of our top talents to finding new medicines, going faster for patients and stuff. So it's really for us the main game changer, more than cost cutting, which I think for sure is part of the game. But this helping everyone to focus on what is really strategic and critical for patients is a game changer.
Yeah, and in a final situation, if you have the situation where reporting is something that just happens because you've got the right data, you've got the right AI, then all the time can be dedicated to asking and answering the right questions. And that means that everyone involved can be more of a, the fancy phrase would be a catalyst for value. That's what a number of functions really want to try and achieve. So just as a wrap-up question, I'm interested just to say, for the benefit of the audience, if you were going to give them one piece of advice today about what to do next as it relates to AI, what would be that one golden piece of advice that you would give them? Maybe Angelica, you'd like to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy. I was, just kind of thinking over and reflecting. I'm also excited about it. I mean, I've been doing coding since I was in 5th grade, so kind of technology is my life, to say so. But in the same time, I also care deeply about people. And I think someone said earlier on the call, we have to take everyone with us, right? So yes, let's deliver value, but also let's think that we are all human and everyone deserves somehow their own place, and also to help the people who eventually might be impacted to go on this journey. It's not just about the technology. I think it's 70% people, 10% algorithms, 20% processes. No, there's a recipe going around, so let's not forget about the people component.
Yeah, take everyone with us. I like the phrase. Thank you. Gurinder, anything to share?
One thing I'll leave that, we have learned in the last couple of years is the real opportunity lies in scaling AI responsibly. So that means looking at how we upskill our workforce and really have a methodical way of bringing everybody along with us, embedding ethics and governance right from the start, where we think big, start small, scale fast. Those things need to be taught right at the front, and rethinking our operating models to unlock the value. So our talent, are we structured right? Do we need to reimagine how we do drug discovery, how we do drug manufacturing, supply chain? Some things really need to reimagine, because the things that we used to do and tested for many years may need to be very different. So really having that, I think, and then go out and do your pilots and have fun will be great. But having those sort of serious thinking up front, so when something is working, you're able to now pull all the right levers to really go after the big value.
And it sounds like you're also putting guardrails around the way of you prioritize as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that's another thing that's important for organizations to think through, is what is the basis of what do you do next, that prioritization.
Yeah.
And Jeremy.
So I think we talked during 1 hour about building capabilities and responsible AI. So I don't want to come back to that. One is, as you said from the beginning, is start by AI by design, and don't consider it as an add-on. So especially for me in what we do in business operation. I think that's a role. I think we want to be the catalyst of the modernization. So everything we take is not at all about transferring activity to a low-cost location. It's really about working on processes, embed AI from the beginning to really change ways of working from the beginning. So by design and not as an add-on. And the second advice, because I don't know for others, but we love to, we think we are different and we love to do our own stuff. And my other advice is look outside. I think look at partnerships. You have so many good startups, things that are doing some good stuff, and sometimes leveraging partnership, like we do, for example, with McLaren Formula One, is helping you to take the best in class and to go faster.
So it's using the full ecosystem of that's available to you. Okay. So I just will wrap up very quickly here then. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you very much to our panelists. It's been a really interesting conversation from me, and it's great to hear the breadth of experience that you have, but we're also seeing some themes that seem to be aligned either around the opportunity, the risks, and how things get delivered. And it's interesting from the polling questions as well to see that people are expecting a lot more activity in this area. That we're at least inconsistent in some organizations about integrating with operating models. So to your AI by design point, is making sure you get all of those connected to drive the greatest benefit. And that means that organizations should be able to access greater value in the future. So thank you very much for sharing all of those ideas with us and insights with us. For those of you in the audience, if you do want to get in touch, this is the details for myself and also Beth Hayes, who's the Vice President for Life Sciences at the Hackett Group. And there's a QR code here if you'd like to download a paper from Hackett's research and experience in the marketplace. It talks about two major projects that we've been involved in with Americold and 3M. You can learn some of the lessons from that. And we will be writing up a short summary of this webinar we've had this afternoon, and we look forward to making that available to share with you in the future. So I'll leave it there. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the panelists. Thank you to the audience.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a good day.